I'm Ann Abernathy, and this is Beyond Badass, How Fierce Women Get It Done. As a real estate broker here in Aspen, Colorado, I've had the good fortune to meet so many impressive and inspiring women, and I just thought their stories should be heard. The goal here is for all of us to learn together. Welcome to Beyond Badass, the podcast. I've got a great guest today. But before we get to that, if you're thinking about selling your house and you want to be really badass about it, where do you begin? How about right here? This is today's Fast Fix. Today's Fast Fix is clear the cobwebs. Now, what does that mean? Well, that means clear up, clean up every spot in your house. Start with the windows, clean them inside and out. Also include the screens. That really catches a lot of dust. Then go through your house and look at the dirtiest things. Make sure that all the glass, all the mirrors, and everything are really spotless. This is my go-to stuff for cleaning carpets. You spray a little of this on all the carpet spots, blot them with a paper towel, and you're done. So clear the cobwebs. That's my Fast Fix for today.
Joining me today is Dr. Christina Miller, and she is an ER physician, board-certified ER physician, who had kind of a personal roadblock and had changed her entire life as a result of that, and has started to practice in living healthfully. It's amazing what she's done to make a shift and actually take care of her own body. So welcome, Chris.
Thank you, Ann. It's so good to be here.
It's so good to see you again, and I've followed your amazing career and come in and consulted with you and learned so much from you. I'm so thrilled to get this information out. Good, solid, medically and scientifically backed information about health, and the name of your website even says it. It is
eatandlivehealthfully.com.
So we like emphasis on eat. Right? We like that, but we'd like to know what that's all about. Let's bring this audience up to date on your history and what happened to you. I mean, you were a hard-driving Denver emergency room physician. That is hours and hours and hours, right, every day, round the clock, relentless, and got not a great diagnosis. Tell us about it.
Yeah, thank you. So I was working in the ER, and I started to get joint pains where my finger started to swell up, and I had no idea why. And it went away in a few days, so I ignored it. And then all of a sudden, the next week, I had it in a different finger, and I knew right away that was going to be autoimmune. I was like, oh, this is bad. And I continued to work my shifts. I was working like 5 shifts in a row. And by
How many hours per
shifts
shift?
They range between 8 hours and 12 hours. So
wow.
It depends if you're doing an afternoon, otherwise they're 12 hours. And so I was working my 5 shifts, and by the end of the shifts, I was so stiff and swollen, I couldn't even bend my fingers. I was limping because my knee would hurt or my elbow would hurt. I just was having random joint pains, and it came on so fast for me. I had no idea what was wrong. I was healthy. I had just gotten married. Like, life was good. I was president of Colorado ASAP, American College of Emergency Physicians. And
wow.
I had all these things going on. I was on top of my game, and this happened. So after my shifts, I finally went in to see the doctor, and my antibodies came back positive for lupus. And it caught me off guard because as a physician, I'm invincible.
Of course.
And did not think this would happen to me. This happens to my patients. This doesn't happen to doctors.
And you were really young.
I was in my early 30s, yeah.
Is that when that usually presents?
It's common to present anywhere from 20s to 40s, but now we're seeing it at all different ages.
Really?
And it's most common in women, but now we're seeing it in men. So it's just kind of becoming much more prevalent these days.
And why do you think that is?
Diet and lifestyle.
Really? Oh boy. Okay, here we go. So lupus, I mean, that's serious. Let's just talk about the symptoms of lupus besides all the joint pain. What is the prognosis for lupus?
Yeah, lupus is a scary one because what it is it's an autoimmune disease where your body is attacking itself. It attacks your joints, it attacks your kidneys, it can attack your heart, your lungs, your blood vessels, your brain. It's all over the body. It's very scary. And we don't know exactly why we attack ourselves, and so they doctors put us on major immunosuppressives to calm down the immune system, and in the meantime, you're suppressing your immune system. We need an immune system, right? Immune systems help us fight COVID. They help us fight infections. They prevent cancer. So it causes all sorts of problems there. And symptoms of lupus can be anything. It runs the gamut from joint pains. You can have chest pains, difficulty breathing. You can have heart attacks. You can have blood clots in your lungs. People get seizures and memory abnormalities. People can have urinary issues and tons of kidney disease with lupus. So, it kind of runs the gamut. And then terrible fatigue is a hallmark that I see in a lot of my patients.
So with that kind of prognosis and also the onset of fatigue and joint pain, how did you continue in the ER?
Well, I continued working because I loved it, right? This is who I am. We define ourselves by what we do, right? This is my identity. So I continued working in the ER, but it got harder and harder. I was put on more and more major immunosuppressives, anti-chemotherapeutic drugs, like big time steroids, and it got to the point I was so immunosuppressed that I couldn't work in the ER anymore. People would come in with a little cold or a sore throat, and I was terrified I would get some major infection from it. So after a year and a half, and some of the times I was working and I would look at my patients, they weren't really that sick. They had a little something going on, maybe a little laceration, and I was like, I'm sicker than them, and I just started to feel really depressed, and so I finally had to step back, and that was one of the hardest decisions I've ever made in my life.
I'll bet. I mean, that's going like 100 miles an hour to zero in just one decision. So how did you move forward? What was your plan?
So I moved forward. I was scared at this point, right, and depressed, and I was in trouble. I'd gained weight from the steroids.
Oh, yeah.
And I was not myself, and I would cry every day, and it was horrible. So I started Googling, and this is over 10 years ago. Nobody said a word to me about diet or lifestyle or anything, and not my friends, not my family, not the doctors, nobody. And so finally I started Googling, but it just really depressed me when I would read about it because it was always bad, so I didn't Google it a lot. But finally I came up with people who had improved changing their diet. And so that brought me down a major rabbit hole. And so then I started reading everything. I flew out to conferences, sat in the front row and listened to people who talked about the immune system and inflammation and the gut microbiome and healing. And I went conference after conference after conference, and I read the books and the literature and dove into the articles. And I was in deep.
You had to. You were trying to save yourself.
Right.
So what was the result of that?
So the result of that was I ended up overhauling my diet 180 degrees completely. I went to a plant-based diet, started eating vegetables like I never ate vegetables before, and I started eating foods that had a purpose, foods that were living, foods that had nutrients in it, foods that would heal me instead of just what I wanted to eat. And so I switched my diet over, and I lost the weight right away, and I started to feel better. My energy came back, but I still had a lot of joint pains. So my journey was not over, and so from there I did a fellowship in integrative medicine at Arizona with Dr. Andrew Weil, and I trained all about mind, body, and herbs and supplements and all these other modalities to heal besides for food. And so I started to incorporate the anti-inflammatory diet with the anti-inflammatory lifestyle, which is everything else that our bodies bathe in and nourishes our bodies and keeps us healthy.
Okay, inflammation and that microbiome, oh my gosh, it's what didn't exist 10 years ago when you were researching this. Nobody knew anything. Right. Now it's everywhere. And the more I read, the more confused I get. And the more I read about paleo versus keto versus plant-based versus dairy the more confused I get. So I want you to take me back to, let's start with the anti-inflammatory diet, because as I understand it, and you tell me the statistic, the American population is flooded with inflammatory disease, right? So tell us about that.
Yeah, inflammation is the root cause of chronic illness. So from diabetes, obesity, just people who simply can't lose weight, heart disease, the number one killer in men and women is still heart disease. And this is all inflammatory based, autoimmune diseases, arthritis, again, all inflammation. So if we can control the inflammation, we can control all these chronic illnesses instead of thinking, and then even asthma and allergies, inflammation. And instead of thinking of them as separate diseases, I have asthma, I have thyroid disease, I have gut issues. It's all inflammation. So if we think, okay, I'm inflamed, we can treat all of that with our diet and our lifestyles.
And so what's an anti-inflammatory diet?
Great question. An anti-inflammatory diet is a diet that is based on anti-inflammatory foods. So number one, you have to remove pro-inflammatory foods. Certain foods are just known to make inflammation, and those foods are sugar, processed oils. Animal products make more omega-6 fatty acids than they do omega-3 fatty acids, and omega-3 fatty acids are anti-inflammatory. We're looking to flood our bodies with omega-3 fatty acids. So if we eat too much animal products, that's omega-6 as well. And dairy products are very pro-inflammatory.
Right.
They're probably number one for autoimmune disease are dairy products.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm. And so when people take dairy products out, a lot of people, joint pains go away almost just with that step alone. So that's the number one food that I tell people we got to get this out.
And how about sugar?
Sugar and processed foods are so bad for us, and it's unfortunate. We're busy in America. We live these great, wonderful lives, and we don't have time to cook food and eat real food anymore. And they make food so palatable and so delicious and wonderful, and it's all processed, and it's causing inflammation for sure. So
what did you... just run through your diet. So everybody's got a baseline for this because everybody wants to know. And then I want to know what's the outcome from the lupus, obviously. But start with the food.
So because I was so sick myself, I had to switch to the maximum anti-inflammatory diet. And when I work with my patients, people do different levels. It kind of depends how sick they are. They may not want to go as extreme, or they might. For me, my number one and only goal was to reverse this disease and get my life back. And so I would do anything it took. So I went all in. And that meant I ate mostly raw green leafy vegetables, cruciferous vegetables, which is the kale, cabbage, bok choy, broccoli, Brussels sprouts family. So I ate a lot of that. I ate a lot of omega-3s, which are walnuts, flax seeds, chia seeds. Again, this is not foods I used to eat hardly ever at all, right? Maybe a salad, but not like this. But I'm eating it breakfast, lunch, and dinner on purpose, and I eat them raw on purpose because that's the living nutrients, the enzymes, that when you cook it, you lose those enzymes.
Do you? I mean, everything, like broccoli slaw, if you throw it in with in a skillet, the nutrients go away?
Not all of them, some of them. So you actually gain some nutrients when you cook food, too. It's actually good for most people to eat a little bit of both, but when you're severely inflamed, the most anti-inflammatory food is going to be raw.
Interesting.
Yep, and so and vitamins like vitamin A, the B vitamins, not A, I'm sorry, the B vitamins, C, those are heat soluble. So when you cook your broccoli slaw, you've lost all your B vitamins, all your vitamin C. You eat it raw, you're getting tons of vitamin C and B vitamins.
Right.
And so I built my diet like that. That wasn't the only thing I ate. I ate other foods and cooked foods, and I've played around. I've done all raw. I've done fasting. I've done different things. I went completely plant-based, not like paleo, because, again, the animal products can be pro-inflammatory. Some people can reverse it with a paleo-type diet, but if people are really inflamed, why not go all the way in, right?
And fix it.
Doing it.
If you know that works, and it worked for you.
It did. Well, it didn't initially.
It did not initially?
No, and so this is my story. I was all ready to write my book and tell everyone how great this is, and I'll get back my life and go back to the ER. I had my life. It was all planned out, but it didn't. And here's the thing that I've learned along the way: it's not just food. So the whole autoimmune process, the inflammation, it comes from our gut, it comes from the foods that we're eating, but also the gut lining and the microbiome. We could talk hours about that if you want to, but it's also affected by our mind, our thoughts. So thoughts from the frontal lobe go to the back and send out over 100 hormones to our body telling us what to do. And as I was stressed out and I was worried about it, and I missed being an ER doctor, and I wanted a career, and I lost my purpose and my sense of identity, I was spiraling in a negative way. Even though I was eating all this healthy food, I wasn't in a good place to heal. And that's where I had to change my lifestyle in order to get the healing to happen.
Very interesting. So that you were like a human lab.
Yeah, and it was interesting to see that. I was like, why does my finger hurt today? What did I do differently? And I ate the same food, but I didn't sleep as well, or I was stressed out, or I didn't have gratitude. And I have learned some major tricks I can almost reduce my inflammation one day now.
Come on.
Or I know exactly why it is. It's been such an incredible journey.
No, you can't just tease it and not tell us what it is.
So things like laughing, genuine laughing, like belly laughing, takes away my pain almost immediately. So when I'm with my friends, when I'm laughing hard, but during COVID, my husband was at work at the hospital. I was home by myself, right?
Really isolated.
And we had moved out of the valley for a little while, and so I was even more isolated without my friends and my people. And so I would not laugh for a whole day. And, I wasn't in a bad mood. Everything was fine. I was going about doing whatever business I had to do, but I didn't feel that laughter, that sense of joy. And I would meet with friends for a day, and by the time I went home, I was like, oh my God, I have no more pain.
Oh, wow.
So that's one. And the second one, and we talked about this morning routines, but gratitude turns around anxiety so fast. And so I turned on my attitude of gratitude about everything. Instead of being like, poor me, I just moved from the valley and I'm not with my friends, to how lucky I am that I have this house and that I have friends in the valley that I know one day I'll see again. And so I had to turn it around. I couldn't let myself feel the pity party.
And so the combination of all this, or one thing, or what would you say? All of it?
I would say the two most important things are food and mindset. No question. No question. When I am in a good place, I have no pain and I have tons of energy and feel good.
No kidding. I see that right now. And you're you came in here like sunshine walked through the door.
Thank you.
You were so
I imagine
happy.
sunshine coming into my body when I'm meditating. I imagine that sunshine. So that's what I want to be. Thank you.
Well, isn't it interesting, the choice of words I used to describe it? I just kind of picked up on that, I guess, because it shows. It's like you radiate energy. And that isn't that what we all want? Mm-hmm. But I think that also you're describing connection or lack of connection.
Yes, 100%. So we moved back to the valley, which has made everything wonderful.
Right.
Just immediately I feel wonderful. And now I make every effort to see people. Instead of making that secondary to work, now it's primary with work. They're equal levels. Like, I need to connect with my friends as much as I need to be doing my work.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm. I've changed my priority. I used to be too busy, or, no, I can't this time, or I was careful not to overbook myself. Mm-hmm. I'm still careful not to overbook myself, but I have made it a priority. Connection is what it's all about.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. And it makes you feel better.
Mm-hmm. It's a healing modality. Like, I literally have to connect if I want to be healthy. So,
you know what? That's a lot of what this is all about. What Beyond Badass Women is all about. How fierce women get it done, which is just described you, Chris. I mean, really, what you've done to reverse and manage a disease. It's not going to go away, right? But you took the responsibility. You've discovered trial and error. You've got science behind it. Some of it's just personal responsibility to go do it. But I think one of the intentions of this podcast is to create connection. And one of the gals that was in that I interviewed this week, she had such a great idea. She said, I am dying to meet these other women. Mm. I want to meet these other women. And I thought, how unbelievable it is that we're all in this valley. And I mean, not everybody. I've got people that are not here too, that from all over the country. We're going to go there. But how could this many outstanding women not know one another? And I think you just described why. Because in order to get to where they thought they needed to be, they were working really, really hard. Mm-hmm. And another gal said it takes so much time to maintain friendships, right? Mm-hmm. That it takes effort, but as you said, you made it a priority.
It has to be. I realize that now for health, and I see that. I work with so many patients now and help them with their autoimmune, and those that stumble and get stuck, I look into their lives. What are their connections? What's their social network? What are they doing for fun? What's their laughter? And if they're not prioritizing their social life, and that sounds crazy, right? We've never been taught to prioritize it, but if they're not, they get stuck and they're not making it that last hurdle to reverse their inflammation.
Do you see a difference when they reach out?
For sure.
It changes things.
It changes things. And there's actually science now behind this. So there's science that when we connect with other people, it sends off the oxytocin and the serotonin and some of these love, feel-good hormones that we're feeling right now being connected to each other.
Right.
And it sends off those hormones, and those actually calm down the inflammation hormones. And so those of us with autoimmune diseases, we have high IL-1, IL-6. These are some of the cytokines that flood through our bodies. They're the inflammatory markers that are trying to they're running rampant within our bodies, and our body doesn't know what to do with it. They're just there. We keep making them, and then we start flooding it with oxytocin and serotonin, and they quiet right down. They really do, and we've seen that in studies. There's studies supporting that. And so as I saw a whole study about laughter as medicine, and as I saw that, I was like, well, hot diggity, I'm going to go buy some joke books, and we're like telling jokes to each other now and finding reasons to laugh out loud, like being silly at home, doing dances together. Like,
oh, how fun.
We're just bringing back the silliness, and it seems to really be working.
Oh, it's interesting that we now, what used to be normal, and even with children, that they would run and play outside. Right. It used to be how life was. Mm-hmm. And now we have to be intentional about it. We have to make that happen. But good to know, so we can go do that.
And if people have kids, use your kids to be like them, go play with them and have fun. That's exactly what we're trying to induce.
Because as adults, we're no longer playful. We're not running. Children run without abandon.
Right.
They're as free as can be, and they laugh and carry on. Even little infant babies, the bonding and the oxytocin that takes place when you're bonding with your baby, and they start to giggle back to you, and they just get hysterical.
Right. And that's what I tell my patients. I say, remember that little girl or boy that you were, and it was before Christmas Day or it was summertime. You were carefree. You were running outside. Right. You didn't have a care in the world. You were so excited about Christmas or whatever holiday you celebrate, and that's the feeling I want us to feel again as adults. That's what's helping us with our inflammation. Now, that's not the only thing, but boy, it sure does make a difference.
What are you seeing in your practice predominantly? Is there a trend one way or another? Are people coming to you to lose weight? Are they coming to you for inflammation? Are they coming to you for disease?
I'm seeing everything right now. So remember, I'm now a plant-based physician. So I use food and lifestyle as medicine as well as regular medicine. And I'm seeing a little bit of everything. People are coming in with chronic illness from high cholesterol, high blood pressure, lots of gut issues, indigestion, gas and bloating, loose stools, constipation, things like that. I see a lot of autoimmune people, all different, from rheumatoid arthritis, Crohn's disease, there's Sjogren's, dry eyes, dry mouth, all sorts of different autoimmune diseases, which I love connecting with my autoimmune patients.
I bet.
I totally get that. But I see, people who've had heart attacks, want to prevent another one, or people with family history of things, or people with cancer. Next month is breast cancer awareness.
Yes.
So I'm doing a write-up and some classes on breast cancer, trying to help people with prevention or, doing the best we can all to take as best care of ourselves as we can.
Talk to me about alcohol.
Alcohol for what?
Well, I'm not talking about rubbing alcohol. I'm about drinking alcohol. About people, who want to go on any kind of, if you're going to go on any kind of diet, explain to me, if you would, how alcohol backfires or what it does to you, or can you have it, or is it red wine that's okay? And what about pink wine that it really is red wine without the peels? And what about white wine? And every possible objection that
this woman knows her wine.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying it's one of those social things that we do while we're connecting, right? Mm-hmm. So how bad is it?
Well, it totally varies. It's not that simple, right? It's nuanced. So for someone like me, I have a gut microbiome that's been messed up. I have leaky gut, they call, when your gut gets messed up and little particles start moving across.
I hear a lot about this.
Yeah.
Now that you brought it up, but how do you get rid of that?
So leaky gut is when your gut is one cell layer thick and it runs right next to each other. And what happens is the gut microbiome is right above them and there's a mucus layer there. Well, if you aren't eating fiber-rich foods and you start taking antibiotics and you live a stressful life and eat processed foods, you start losing that mucus layer. Your microbiome becomes less beneficial, where it's now harmful to you, and that tight junction there between each cell breaks apart. So now particles and microbiome bacteria can actually go across, and your immune system is right there underneath. So this is what we call leaky gut. It's really just increased permeability of that membrane. And so now it comes across the immune system's right there. The immune system is like, I don't recognize those bacteria. I don't recognize those big particles, and it gets hyperactive. That's where the inflammation comes from, and that's where autoimmunity is. Then you start making mistakes and you start attacking yourself instead of attacking these particles. You get food sensitivities and all sorts of things like this. So this is leaky gut. So we have to heal it by repairing that microbiome, bring the microbiome back into balance, repairing the gut or the endothelial, the cell lining of the gut lining, get those mucus layers back. The immune system will quiet right down. Joint pains go away, symptoms resolve, inflammation quiets
How do you
down.
fix it?
You fix it with removing the pro-inflammatory foods. Same thing.
Okay,
Eating fiber-rich food. Fiber has been shown to re-support the microbiome. We use certain probiotics for certain things. There's different ones, different times. People tolerate different ones differently. We look at stool samples and things like this, but also flooding the body with pro-inflammatory healing foods, and that's the nutrients that I'm talking about, and they have to be well digested. So there's a few little tricks we can use or some supplements we can use, but when the leaky gut goes away, the symptoms basically resolve, the inflammation goes down. We see that inflammatory markers that we follow in our patients. So back to alcohol.
Yeah.
Somebody with a leaky gut like myself, that's really autoimmune disease people. We tend to have these guts that are not as doing as well as other people's, and when we drink alcohol, that worsens it. So if someone's reversing an autoimmune disease, you don't want to have alcohol. If someone has breast cancer, alcohol definitely promotes breast cancer because it promotes breast cell proliferation. So
is that right?
Estrogen, it promotes it. So if you have a family history or you yourself had history of breast cancer or you're really worried about it, those are people I would say no alcohol to.
You know, I do know that there is a prescribed, I don't know where this came from, if it's physicians or if it's FDA or whatever, that women should not have more than one glass of wine a day, and that men can have more, but that there is that breast cancer and even sugar linked, right, to breast cancer.
Yep. And that the reason it's one for women is our livers are smaller, and it takes a lot of enzymes to metabolize alcohol, and it breaks down to what's called acetaldehyde, which is a toxin. And so if you only drink one glass, your body can metabolize that toxin immediately and doesn't cause a problem. You start drinking 2 or 3 glasses, you're making more acetaldehyde now, and that's a toxin to our liver, and now it can start causing liver damage and inflammation and problems. So
and is there a difference? You know, the Mediterranean diet says that red wine in the blue zones, right? They make their own wine, they harvest them, and they drink it. So, and these are the longest living humans on the planet. What in Loma Linda, California, and Sicily, and right. So it's red wine.
So
resveratrol.
After yes, so the red wine has way more antioxidants. The resveratrol is life promoting. It's found in grape skins, in wine, and it is in peanuts. Actually, have resveratrol, and it's been life enhancing. And so like I was saying, who should drink wine? As long as you're not reversing one of these serious chronic illnesses, then I think it's fine. If you drink it in moderation, of course, like we talked about, too much is going to cause problems. The thing it does is it has those antioxidants and it brings people together. That connection is actually going to reverse illness. So it's more powerful. I think people are studying it to understand what's the deal with wine? Like, how come some people do better? Those antioxidants can be beneficial to your heart, right? We've seen that. They can be beneficial to other parts of your body, the antioxidants, and people can live to 100 years old and drink wine. However, those are not the people that already have a chronic illness. Once they have that illness, then, you have
to stay away from it.
Yeah, but I have some people who have had autoimmune diseases who have reversed them and have brought it back in moderation and so far been doing okay.
We just go a little bit forward on this blue zone thing? Because to me it's fascinating, and they do the people in these parts of the world, as I say, isn't one Costa Rica and Japan? Yes, and Sardinia,
and then there's one
Loma Linda, and there's is it in the South Pacific, Guam, or wherever?
Yeah, there's 5.
But in the blue zones, these are the people who have centenarians by the dozens. That it's more typical to live to 100 than not. But they share the same common things that are not the same, if that makes sense, right? So Loma Linda is they have a shared religion. that brings them together in community. And they are like-minded thinkers, and then they have the same diet. Sardinia, they're shepherds. They're up and down the mountains. They're exercising. Lots of goat cheese, lots of red wine, lots of family, lots of community. So those things are really universal to those blue zone people. So that seems so... My grandparents lived to be 103 and 101.
I love that about you.
Well, I love that about me, too, because I was just born into the right family.
Yeah.
But their lives were different than mine. My mom lived to be 101. Her life is different than mine. But what I noticed that they always did is the same thing as the Blue Zone people. They had a shared sense of community in their church, in their community, their civic duty, activity. My mom was a big volunteer. So it's now we have technology that kind of sometimes can stop us from doing those things. So what do you prescribe in the way of technology to your people?
Yes, for as far as those blue zones go, if I may say something about that.
Please.
That yes, it's the connection. It's also the sense of purpose, and they respect their elders. So even as they age, they feel important and they have a purpose, a reason to get up. And so, because a lot of people retire and they lose that sense of purpose, and hopefully they have a reason still. And then the connection, the religious beliefs, the family, where they have each other's back. You know the feeling when someone has my back. If something goes wrong, I know who to call right away. And that is a feeling that helps calm those hormones right down to it's longevity promoting for sure. So having that closeness of people. And the other thing that's so interesting that they found is in all of those societies, some drank wine, some didn't, some, they all exercise, but they all also ate beans. Legumes, which isn't that so interesting? At first I thought that was so crazy, like beans, really? But now I understand it's a fiber-rich food that feeds that microbiome. So you keep your microbiome strong, you keep your immune system strong, and you're going to prevent chronic illness with
Any
that.
kind of bean?
Any kind of bean. So in Italy, Sardinia, they eat more like chickpeas or the white
fava beans.
Right, the fava beans. Or in other places in Japan, they're doing a lot of sweet potatoes, but they do more like kidney beans or pinto beans, or they ate, and more soybeans, a lot more soybeans. So different beans, but all of them eat Loma Linda, right? There's a lot of vegan vegetarians, and they ate a lot of beans. So the beans seem to be a link. It wasn't if they ate any dairy or ate any animal products, although none of them ate a lot. It was all a plant predominant. A Mediterranean diet was plant predominant diet, and then they ate a little fish or a little bit of meat. Lots of olive oil in those people. Other people ate no olive oil. Some people drank a ton of coffee. Some people drank no coffee. But it was the beans, the connection, the sense of purpose, the exercise, movement, family. Like those are the things that matter.
That's what matters.
And we're all trying to be like, should I eat paleo? Should I be plant-based? Should I be this? Should I be that? It's not that matters. It's, I found what is an anti-inflammatory diet, and it can be defined a little differently for different people. And I work with people to define it for them and make it work for them. But it's all this other stuff that we sometimes forget in medicine, or we forget to talk about, and we don't realize how important it is. We're like, oh yeah, and exercise and work on your stress. No, like now my prescription is, okay, for stress reduction, I want you to laugh for 15 minutes today. I want you to journal for me. I want you to get out in nature, and I want you to write 3 things you're grateful for and why. Or, like that's your prescription now on purpose. And so, yeah, it's just a different way of thinking.
What about, okay, let's talk organic versus non. Tell me, is all organic really? What are we getting when we go to a store that says it's organic? Is that critical because it costs more money? Just elaborate, if you will.
Well, in general, organic is good because there's so many pesticides these days that farmers are using, unfortunately. And so we don't want to eat those pesticides. And studies have shown that pesticides really are getting in our bodies, and they have less nutrients. The food actually becomes a little less nutritious when it has the pesticides on it. So ideally, we're going to eat organic. But there's some caveats to that. Number one, I have patients who can't afford organic that I see, and some of them are Hispanic or they come from underserved areas, and I send them to Walmart and buy whatever they can afford, and they're reversing disease. So you still get nutrition if you're eating non-organic. Like, I don't want people to say, well, I'm not going to eat this salad because it's not organic. Instead, I'm going to eat this big piece of steak, right? So I still want you to eat the vegetables or fruit. But organic really is better. And then number 2, it's way better for the environment now. Those pesticides are running into the environment. They're running into the water,
Right.
and they're killing our fish, and they're hurting our animals, and they're making our food less nutritious. So if we have the money, I urge people to support organic if possible. But that being said, even I don't have enough money to eat organic all the time, so I just do the best I can. And you can follow things like Environmental Working Group, which has a list of top 10 dirty dozen, which you really should buy organic, and Clean 15, which don't waste your money. It's not really contaminated, so you don't
Interesting.
Really need to.
And where do you get?
EWG.org.
Say it again. I interrupted.
EWG.org, environmentalworkinggroup.org, and they're independently. They review it every year, and they'll come up with
Very helpful. We need to put that up. That is very helpful.
And I also tell my patients, just do the best we can. That's all we're doing. We're not trying to be stressed out. I have to eat organic. We're doing the best we can. And I also think it's important to eat locally. So if I have a peach that's from Palisade, just down the street, and it's local, but it's not organic, I might buy it because I'm also trying to reduce my carbon footprint and eat locally and support local agriculture. So there's some variation to, should we always, being dogmatic, should we always eat organic?
So the shift, let's talk about Chris Miller for a second. So this shift from this very fast-paced Denver hospital ER doc into this metamorphosis to physician heal thyself, essentially, is what you did. And how you made that shift. You were brave enough to go there. And now, okay, so first you were there, then you had the conflict, a hero's journey, and now you're here. So tell me about your practice now and how you do it, and are you enjoying it?
Oh my gosh, I'm so enjoying it. So I have started a practice in Aspen where I was doing diet and lifestyle, helping people with reduce inflammation and chronic illness. And since then, I have now picked up telemedicine. So I'm working with a group of like-minded doctors, and we use food as medicine and lifestyle, of course, and then regular medicine too when people need it. Of course, there's a reason for medications. And so now I'm doing that, and people come from all 50 states. I have licenses myself in 22 states, so I can see people across the country, and it is awesome when they come in and I get a chance to talk to them and work with them with their chronic illness. And I learn everything about them. I have them fill out a 5-page intake form, and so I go over, I know how much stress is in their life, I know how busy they are, do they like to cook, what's their favorite food, what's all their past medical history, what medications, what supplements, what surgeries, like all that stuff, of course. And we go over everything together then. We kind of go through a plan. What are their goals? Some people may just want to lose weight. Some people might want to fully reverse their disease. So we can work on whatever they want, wherever they are. And it has been the most rewarding job I have ever done because people are so motivated. I watch them take back their health. I see how hard they're working, and we talk about things like stress reduction and getting out of the house and laughter, and we talk about their food and their medications. We work to decrease their medications if they're diabetic or blood pressure meds. We decrease it. Steroids. I've worked with a lot of people to get them off steroids. So,
are you working also in any kind of team-like fashion with the other doctors in the network?
We are. We do webinars together, and we're writing a book on different illnesses. So right now we're working on osteoporosis. It's so prevalent, and so we're going over all the different modalities from diet to lifestyle to everything that affects our bone health. And so we're working on that, and that'll come out from all of us. And then we're going to do the next topic, and then eventually be this nice little book and cookbook and fun things that we do together. Yeah.
Are you doing videos, a lot of video stuff that are available to the patients?
Yes, there's videos that we're doing because we have to pay right now to see us. And so we do a lot of free stuff too, where people can come on. We do a webinar where people can ask questions. So if they don't see us, they can just ask questions, or lots of free videos where we just give little, instructions or information tidbits.
Forgive me for kind of saying this, but I would not wish lupus on anybody. And that being said, the idea that you had that and you were so depressed coming out of a career that identified you as a human being, and now have created this other thing, it might not have been a horrible thing altogether.
Right, I know. People are like, what's the gift that you got from lupus? I'm like, it wasn't a gift. And I still don't really think it was a gift.
No.
Life has to wake us up. Some people get cancer and they wake up, and I got lupus and pretty bad and went through a lot to wake me up. So I am grateful that I'm awake and that it took something to wake me up and
but
realize
look what you've created.
matters.
You've really surged in a very creative, completely different trajectory than what you were doing, and the amount of impact, the amount of influence that you can have as a result with how many people? I mean, it's exponential now, right?
Mm-hmm. I love it. I love working with my patients because they'll often say, my doctor thinks there's nothing wrong with me and my tests were negative, with their gut issues. They think it's in my head. And so I understand what they're saying. I can relate with them and I can work through it and help them, get to a better place. And I love it. Now I say I work hard to keep people out of the ER. So.
That's just perfect. That is perfect. Well, we've asked everybody to bring a quote, and yours has got to be delicious. So what is it? Do you have one?
I do. I have one that has a lot to do with me and my personal journey, and it's from Coach Wooden. He was the basketball coach at UCLA for many years.
John Wooden.
Yeah, and he has a pyramid of success. And,
yes, he
and my
does.
quote, I'm rewording it. It's not exactly how he said it, but the quote that I run through my head over and over, that's my mantra, is success is the peace of mind knowing that you gave it your best. Because I used to judge myself in success if I reversed my lupus. If my antibodies were negative, if I was pain-free, I was successful. And for many years, I wasn't successful, and I felt like a failure, and what's wrong with me, and I was spiraling, again, negativity, right? And now I realize that if I'm giving it my best, I'm eating my greens, and I'm laughing, and I'm taking care of other patients, and giving this world everything I got, I am successful, regardless of those labs. And so those words run through my head over and over and over again.
That is absolutely wonderful. I love John Wooden and the Pyramid of Success.
Happy you know about that.
Oh, I love John Wooden. I love the Pyramid of Success. My kids had it on their walls growing up,
wow.
and it was just the most solid information, and it's no surprise that you would grab onto that. And I love the idea of doing your best, that it's about the journey. It's about trying. It's about getting better and not letting some statistics or some numbers derail your progress.
Yeah, and I'm someone who has a lot of resistance in me, and that delays me from doing stuff.
Come on, you've got come on.
Oh my gosh, so much resistance, and so it's not good enough, or I'm not good enough, and so that would slow me down, and that would lead me to feeling insecure and unhappy. And now I don't feel that way anymore because I'm giving it my best. So even if I mess up this interview, or even if I mess something up, I gave it my best, so then it was awesome. And so now it just makes me feel so much happier and less worried about things in life. Like, it's just changed everything when I changed that attitude.
I'm being bombarded about intermittent fasting with all my friends. People who are on diets, they seem to just believe in it. And it's trendy, right? Really trendy right now. So please explain that.
Well, it's trendy right now, but that being said, it's been something that's been done for centuries. Centuries and centuries and centuries. We are meant to eat and digest food when it's daylight during the daytime hours. And actually, our digestion shuts down around 8 o'clock p.m. at night. We're not digesting food anymore. We're not secreting the enzymes. We're not getting the peristalsis that moves our stomach along. So if you eat food, it just sits there all night long. And we're actually more insulin resistant at nighttime. So if you eat something in the morning and you eat the same thing at night, it has more it's gonna actually cause you to raise your insulin more, and you might gain weight from that food where you didn't in the morning. It kept your blood sugar stable, if that makes sense.
It does make sense.
And so what I see intermittent fasting is, instead of being like trendy or something that everyone should do, we really should be eating in a shorter window. That's
Which is
the bottom line.
Name the window.
It does. What the studies show is that at least 12 hours of eating and 12 hours of fasting minimum shows benefit. And it's even more benefit if we do 10 hours, and even more benefit up to 8 hours of eating window. So if you eat, I try to do something where I eat between 9:30 and 5:30, and so it's an 8-hour window. But no, I'm not perfect. Some days it's 6:30, so it's pretty much a 9-hour window for me. And some days I'm starving in the morning. I eat a little bit earlier. But our bodies are circadian; they get on rhythm. And so if you're used to eating breakfast every morning at 8, lunch every day at 12, dinner every day at 5, your body's ready to secrete hormones. It's ready to do its job. It's a lot of work to digest food, right? You have to secrete all these enzymes enzymes, and it has to move through your body, and then it has to absorb it and get rid of toxins. It's a lot of work. And if you do it on schedule, same time every day, it's so beneficial. And we talked about leaky gut and healing the gut, and it helps digestion. It can reverse people with IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, who have gassy, bloating, discomfort. It can help improve insulin sensitivity, so people start to lose weight when they're stuck not losing weight. And what's been shown is the earlier in the day that your window is, the better it is, truthfully. So some people are doing like 12 to 8, and I think that's a little too late. Whatever works for you is best. So if that's all that works, then that's great.
I'm an early riser.
Me too.
I'm up at 5, no matter. I mean, today I slept a little late because we worked late, but I still ate early last night. So if I'm up at 5 o'clock, maybe I'm just telling myself I'm hungry. If I ate dinner at 6, is that a long enough window?
So if you eat dinner at 6, ideally
it would be like 7
6 a.m.
Or
6 to
a.m.
6 is 12 hours is what you're ideally
That's
going
what
for.
you want.
And truthfully, hunger is a habit. So once you stop eating at 5 a.m. and you start eating at 6, you'll no longer be hungry at 5 a.m.
Right.
You're going to be hungry at 6 a.m. And you wake up, have a little bit of water, herbal tea or something, whatever you drink in the morning, and then you can start having your first meal. And hunger will change based on what you're doing. So that's what to me it really helps.
And the other thing that I didn't get in are green drinks. So what about powdered green drinks and all the things that we're seeing about consuming those first thing in the morning?
So we've seen studies that where people had the powdered green drinks and their antioxidant level went up, and then when people eat real broccoli and kale, the antioxidant goes up. They don't really compare, so I prefer people to blend real greens into their own green drink. That being said, if you're traveling and you just can't get greens, then bring your green drink. I'd rather you have this much than none, but I'd rather you have this much if possible.
Is it better to have a green drink than it is to have a plant protein in the morning? Or do you do both in one thing? Or is it better to drink it or to eat it? Or tell me what you have for breakfast.
Yeah,
I guess.
All of that varies with each person. I use them all almost medicinally. So if you have gut issues, it's better to blend it. If in general, when you chew stuff, it fills you up a little more, the fiber in it, than if you just suck down a smoothie, then you're hungry 2 hours later.
Right.
But if you eat it, you may not be as hungry. But if you don't chew well, if you eat fast and you don't chew it well, that can cause inflammation in itself. Undigested food causes inflammation.
Wow.
So you have to eat it slowly. And the most important thing, truthfully, is just getting greens in you. So if that means blending it, if that means if you want to add protein powder, but the most important thing is to just get them in. If you want to eat it, if you want to blend it, however you want to do it, just get them in.
And how about eggs?
Eggs, it depends. So if people eat more than 3 eggs a week, it's been shown that they have more diabetes and more heart disease. But in small amounts in certain people, they can be fine. They're more pro-inflammatory than not eating eggs. So for people with high inflammation like myself, then we take them out.
Okay.
But once people are healthy and everything is doing well, if they have some eggs, I just would say very much limit them. Large amount of eggs have been shown to not be as advantageous in the long run.
Okay. You're just absolutely making a huge difference, Chris. Dr. Christina Miller, find this lady. If you have anything wrong with you, you know what? Just the interaction here today is so uplifting for me. And I haven't seen you in a long time. And it was just so delightful. Instant connection, right? When you walked through the door.
I know.
I'm so happy to see you.
I feel the same way.
Thank you so much for coming and sharing this very, very valuable information for us. And we're all going to try and do what you say and get to the bottom of why we might not feel so well.
Yeah, well, you're welcome. It's such an honor to be here, and I love getting to talk to you and connecting. I have no joint pains right now because this was good for me as well. So
fantastic.
Thank you. I'm happy to share.
Beyond badass right here.
Hey everybody, thanks for joining us today. If you haven't subscribed, please hit the subscribe button and also that little bell icon next to it. That way you'll get notifications when a new episode drops. And I'd love it if you'd follow me at Inside Aspen on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, and then the website's InsideAspen.com. I'm Ann Abernathy. See you next time.